Hey folks, welcome to part 2 of week 10 for visual design. Okay, where did we leave off? Well, we had our bunch of shapes. We went over the direct select tool and the add and subtract anchor point tools and how they can alter a typical shape into something unique. We talked about how to duplicate shapes using the universal keyboard command for duplicate, option drag. We talked about using the alignment tool over here in properties and the distribute tool to allow you to line up your shapes and distribute them evenly. All right, so we're going to keep moving, and now we're going to take a look at some other shape editing tools as well as the Pathfinder palette. Okay, so let's say that you have a shape that you want to sort of cut some pieces out of. So we talked about how the anchor point tools and the direct selection tool allows you to alter an existing shape. Well, another way to alter a shape is to basically cut it up. Now, in Photoshop, we had the eraser tool, which allowed you to do such things. And over here in Illustrator, we also have, you'll notice down here in the toolbox, we also have an eraser tool. And the way these tools work, if you hold down the eraser tool, you'll see there's three tools: the eraser tool, the scissor tool, and the knife tool. They all kind of do similar things. And the way they work is, first with your selection arrow, you have to choose the object that you want to affect. So I'm going to choose this circle here. Then you grab the tool, so I'm going to grab the eraser tool. And the eraser tool works similar to the eraser tool in Photoshop, but because these are vectors, meaning geometric shapes created by geometry as opposed to pixels, it doesn't exactly work the same way. So watch what happens when I take the eraser tool and just go through the shape. It will erase a section, but really what it's doing is it's converting that shape into two separate shapes. So now you'll see if I go back to my selection arrow that it's really two shapes, this shape and this shape. So the eraser tool allowed me to basically bifurcate the shape and cut it into two shapes. The eraser tool can also be used to cut holes in things, like boop, 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 boop. So Swiss cheese, right? Now this, of course, doesn't convert it into different shapes. It just punches holes in your existing shape. So that's another way to do it. The other thing you can do with the eraser tool is if you double click on the actual tool, click, click, it opens up the eraser tool options, which allows you to change the shape of the eraser. So instead of it being a complete circle, you can make it an ellipse by changing this. You could change the angle of it, which of course is only useful if it's an ellipse. And you can change the size of it. So if you want to make a nice big one, you can do that. Now, unfortunately, there's no preview like there is in Photoshop if I bring my cursor out here. So you sort of have to eyeball it and then hit OK. And then you can see how big it is. You can see this is much bigger. So I don't have to cut the shape in half like I did in my first demonstration. I can simply click and drag into it like this, let go, and it just changes the shape, right? Or, I can continue to do it and just really alter the way the shape looks. So that's the eraser tool. So pretty great tool. All right, next, let's take a look at one of the tools underneath the eraser tool, the scissors tool. Now, the scissors tool allows you to cut the wire that creates your shape. So again, just to go back to what we did in the earlier video, if I activate the shape using my selection arrow, and I'm going to eliminate the fill color, right? And I'm going to eliminate the stroke color. Now I just have that blue wire frame, right? Let me get this out of here. Goodbye. And now you can see there's just sort of a wire frame. But what if I wanted to cut the wire, right? So grab the scissor tool, and then you can bring your scissors anywhere along the path and snip, and then snip, and that literally treats it as if you just cut a piece of wire. So now you can see that I have a separate chunk of wire there. And if you look at the circle like that, and I'll add some color to the stroke so you can see it better, you can see that I used the scissor tool to go ahead and cut that wire frame that created the circle. And I can keep doing it if I want. I can grab the scissor tool and snip, snip, and then go back with the selection tool and grab that piece that I separated. And now I've really sort of cut that circle into a bunch of chunks. So if you think about the stroke or the frame around each shape as a piece of wire, your scissors here act like a wire cutter, right? It just allows you to snip it along like that. All right, let's put that back together. Okay, next. The next tool that's in this pile is the knife tool, and it works similar to the eraser tool, but instead of allowing you to use the size and shape of the eraser to cut into your shape, the knife tool just literally allows you to slice it. So if I were to take the knife tool, click, and go right through, it will cut my piece in half. So I just literally sliced it straight through, kind of like Fruit Ninja. Now if I go ahead and grab it again, I can cut that, and then simply remove a piece, right? So that's out. And then I can keep doing it. But remember, before you use any of these tools, you first have to activate them with the black selection tool, then choose your tool, and then slice. And then I can just take out like this little piece here. And the other thing, of course, is you can use all these tools in conjunction with each other. So I'll go back to the eraser tool and boom, punch a hole in it, go over to my scissors tool, and simply grab that and cut away some pieces. So I can do that and pick him up and move him around. So you get the idea. So all these tools are basically allowing you to slice and dice your shape like a Cuisinart. So eraser tool, scissor tool, and knife tool. Pretty great, right? Okay, the last palette I'm going to show you today is the Pathfinder tool. Now the Pathfinder tool allows you to merge and separate shapes into one new shape. Now the example I always give is of a snowman. So I'm going to grab this circle here and I'm going to enlarge him a little bit, and let's make him sort of more snowman color, right? Normally I would say we're done with snow this year, but we just got snow the other day, so maybe not. Okay, so there we go, and let's zoom in a little bit. Boonk, boonk, boonk. Okay, so now in doing that, we can grab this circle, and I'm going to duplicate it, bring up another circle, right, and I'm going to make him a little smaller, and put him right here. And then I'm going to duplicate him again and put him up here and make him a little smaller too. And then I'm going to go overlap them a little bit and make them a little off center because snow people are not perfect. So there you go, 3 circles put together in roughly the shape of a snowman. Now if I want to basically glue these 3 circles together in a way that it becomes one brand new shape, I can use the Pathfinder tool. So if I use my black selection arrow and click and select all 3 circles, you'll see that again the properties palette serves me up some tools that it thinks I need. And down here is the Pathfinder tool, and then it has 4 buttons: Unite, Minus Front, Intersect, and Exclude. Now I will say that Intersect and Exclude we don't use too often, but Unite and Minus Front come in handy. So Unite is the obvious one, it's the one that glues them together. So with all 3 of these selected, I click Unite and boop, it becomes one big shape. So now it is now a new shape, however I want it, which is pretty great. Now if I wanted to cut some holes in it, well I did show you the eraser tool, but the eraser tool of course only works with circular or elliptical shapes. What if I want to cut some holes that are different shapes? What if I want to give my snowman some buttons made of coal, and we're going to make him an icon so he's flat and cut through. So this polygon here is roughly the shape of a piece of coal. Maybe I'll add another side to it. Here you go. And we'll make it about this big. And just so we can see it better, I'm going to make it a different color. It doesn't really matter what color it is because we're going to use it as a cutout, right? Kind of like a cookie cutter. So I'm going to pick this up and drop it there, roughly where his coal buttons would live. And I'm going to make a duplicate of it and keep him over here as a backup. That's sort of like my backup piece of coal. And then I'm going to select the snowman and then hold down the shift key and click the sort of piece of coal too. So now I have both of them selected, right? Or I could just lasso them like this. So they're both selected. And then if I go over to the Pathfinder tool, and instead of clicking Unite, I'm going to click Minus Front, and boop, that shape that I placed on top in front now acts like a cookie cutter and cuts right through the shape of the snowman. And now I can go ahead and duplicate this piece of coal and do it again. And if I want to like resize it a little bit so that it's a slightly different shape of a piece of coal, and again, grab the whole snowman, boom, cut through, grab another one, put that here, move that over a little bit, There we go. Make sure that's on the front. Okay, again, minus front, and so on and so forth. So the Pathfinder allows you to glue items together or use them to cut holes in things. So also really useful in that way. And of course, I could then go back and use my shape tools, as I learned earlier, to make a snowman a little better, right? I can make that triangle and rotate it and extend its length and shrink it down a little bit. Right, and rotate it again and change its color to something a little more appropriate. And we're on our way to making a snowman. You get the idea. So you can, using all of these tools that I've showed you so far, you can basically assemble things into recognizable objects, like our snowman here. If you go with the idea that everything is made of basic shapes, you just have to really think about how to deconstruct it. You can turn anything into a object from a bunch of shapes. Okay, the last thing I am going to show you is the from the object palette up here. So let's say we have a bunch of shapes like we do up here, and I'm going to overlap some of them. So we're going to put the circle and the star. So now this assembly shows us that the circle is in the back, the polygon is in the middle, and the star is in front. It's like 3 pieces of cut paper overlapping each other, right? But what if I want to rearrange that order? There's a couple ways to do that, but I'm going to show you the object arrange feature. So the star, right, I'm going to select that with my selection arrow, and then go to object, arrange, and then send to back. Notice the keyboard commands. It is shift command right bracket, or shift command left bracket, or command left bracket, or command right bracket. Practice with those, because that will make this process much faster once you learn the keyboard commands. But anyway, you can go to object, arrange, and then go to send to back, and then boom, watch what happens. The star jumps to the back of the line. Now, same thing with the circle. The circle's in the back. If I select that, go to object, arrange, bring to front. Boop. It now brings it to the front. And then of course you can see that under arrange there's also bring forward, and that means just one step, or send backward just one step. The thing to pay attention with that is that it is in relation to all the shapes that are on the screen. So it can definitely take a little practice to get them, but that's how you can rearrange the order that they are in. Now the other way to rearrange the order is you go to the layers palette, and I showed you last class that the layers palette is really made up of sub-layers. If I were to grab that purple circle, you can see that here it is in my list of sub-layers, the ellipse. If I just picked it up and move it backwards in space on the layers palette, that also moves it backwards in space on the display screen. So you can do that as well. Okay, so that is it for what we're doing with Illustrator right now. I want you guys to practice with all of these things and certainly get to know the program really well, and have a good time doing it. And then I will be back with another announcement to go over our very first project in Illustrator. All right, go practice with Illustrator. Have some fun. Go do it. Bye.